The silence of a quiet evening used to be the loudest noise in her life. It was a constant, painful reminder that she was alone, making her feel almost invisible. If that sounds even a little bit familiar, then this story is for you. This is the true story of a woman, let's call her Anna, who went from dreading the quiet nights and feeling completely unlovable to building a life filled with real connection and self-worth. And the way she did it reveals a path that, honestly, any of us can follow. Because here's the truth about loneliness. It's not the same thing as being alone. U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy defines loneliness as the feeling that you're missing the social connections you need. It's that gap between the relationships you have and the relationships you want. And it's a feeling that about half of all adults in the U.S. report having. You are not broken or weird for feeling this way. In fact, that feeling is a signal, just like hunger or thirst, that your body is telling you something essential for survival is missing: human connection. But that signal can get stuck in a nasty feedback loop. It's called the cycle of loneliness. And for Anna, it felt like being caught in an invisible current, pulling her further and further from shore. Does Anna's story sound familiar? On the surface, she seemed to have it all together. She had a job, an apartment, and people she'd make small talk with. But on the inside, she was struggling badly. Weekends weren't a relief. They were a source of huge anxiety. Those long, empty hours just seemed to amplify the silence. She'd scroll through social media, watching a highlight reel of everyone else's joy, which only made her feel more isolated. The fear of being rejected became her constant companion. If an invitation to a party actually came, it would trigger a wave of panic. What if I don't know anyone? What if I have nothing to say? What if they can just see how lonely I am? This social anxiety made her turn down invitations, always with a good excuse. But every no was just another brick in the wall she was building around herself. That avoidance, which was supposed to protect her from the pain of rejection, only guaranteed she'd stay isolated. This is the core of the loneliness cycle. The fear of being lonely makes you act in ways that keep you lonely. For Anna, this led to a state of hypervigilance. When she was around people, she was so on edge, scanning for any hint of a threat, like a dismissive look or a conversation that ended too quickly, that she couldn't actually be present. She remembered every negative moment and filtered out anything positive. This just reinforced her belief that she was unwanted, that something was deeply wrong with her. The turning point came on a random Tuesday evening. A colleague she really admired mentioned they were going to a book club that night and casually invited her along. For a second, her heart leaped at the idea, but then that familiar wave of panic washed over her. She mumbled an excuse about being busy. Later that night, alone in her apartment, the weight of that missed chance felt crushing. It wasn't just about a book club. It felt like a lifeline she had just refused to grab. She realized the prison she was in wasn't locked from the outside. She was the one holding the key. And she knew, with a certainty that was both terrifying and liberating, that she just couldn't live like this anymore. Anna's journey out of loneliness didn't start with some big, dramatic gesture. It started with a quiet decision she made for herself. It was the decision to stop fighting her feelings and just acknowledge them. Step 1. Acknowledge the feeling, without the guilt trip. She started to practice accepting her loneliness as a feeling, not as a verdict on her character. It didn't mean she was unlovable. It just meant she was human. Simply acknowledging the feeling, without piling on the self-criticism, was the first real step to breaking the cycle. This act of self-compassion started to dissolve the shame that had kept her stuck. Loneliness started to feel less like a life sentence and more like a temporary and treatable condition. Step 2. Start with micro-connections. The idea of making a bunch of new friends felt impossible, like trying to climb a mountain. So she didn't. Instead, she focused on what researchers call micro-connections, tiny, brief, positive interactions. Think of them as low-stakes exercises to strengthen your connection muscle. She made it a tiny goal to make eye contact and give a real smile to the barista at her coffee shop. When the cashier at the grocery store asked how she was, instead of the automatic "fine," she'd try, "I'm doing well, thanks." How's your day going? These little moments, which seem so insignificant, started to add up. Research shows that even these tiny interactions can boost our mood and our sense of belonging. They were small wins, little bits of proof that connection was possible, and that the world wasn't as scary as her anxiety made it out to be. Step 3. Find your people through a shared interest. With her confidence getting a little boost from these small successes, Anna was ready for the next step. She thought about that book club. The idea still made her nervous, but this time, the fear didn't paralyze her. She went online and found a local hiking group. That felt safer, less pressure to make witty conversation, and more focus on doing something together. Showing up to that first hike was a huge act of courage. But she discovered something amazing. When people get together over a shared interest, connection tends to happen more naturally. Nobody was there to judge her, they were just there to hike. She found that by focusing on something outside of herself, like offering someone a hand on a steep part of the trail, her own self-consciousness started to fade. This lines up perfectly with what Dr. Vivek Murthy says about service being a powerful antidote to loneliness, because it yanks you out of your own head and reminds you that you have value to offer others. Building these habits takes time and intention. Just like for Anna, finding the right tools and the right communities can make all the difference. As Anna started building connections on the outside, she noticed something she didn't expect. She was actually starting to enjoy her own company. The intense fear of being alone, sometimes called autophobia or monophobia, began to fade. She realized a lot of her past behavior was just people-pleasing, born from feeling disconnected from her own self. She started scheduling alone time on purpose, reframing it in her mind as solitude instead of loneliness. She rediscovered hobbies she had abandoned years ago, like painting and listening to old records. She learned how to keep her own mind engaged and busy, a strategy that many people find essential for their own mental well-being. This inward journey was just as important as the outward one. By learning to be her own companion, she took the power away from the fear of being alone. She didn't need other people to validate her existence anymore. This made her future friendships more authentic. She wasn't looking for connection out of desperation anymore, but from a place of genuine curiosity and a desire to share her life with others. Today, Anna's life looks completely different. It's not some perfect fairy tale. She still has quiet evenings, but now the silence is peaceful, not a deafening roar of everything she lacked. She has a small, tight-knit group of friends from her hiking club. She even hosts small potlucks sometimes, something her past self would have never dreamed of doing. The Sunday night dread has been replaced by a quiet excitement for a weekend hike, a coffee date, or sometimes just a peaceful day with her own thoughts. She broke the cycle. Her story shows us that a path out of loneliness is real. It's a path that starts not by trying to become a totally different person, but by reconnecting with yourself and then extending that connection outward, one small step at a time. The U.S. Surgeon General himself notes that even just dedicating 15 minutes a day to intentionally reaching out to someone you care about can make a huge difference. So, this is the part where I turn to you. Your story is your own, and your path will look different. But the principles are the same. Start by just acknowledging your feelings with kindness. Maybe try one micro-connection tomorrow, a genuine smile or a thank you. Look for a group that shares an interest you're truly passionate about. And most importantly, be patient with yourself. Choosing connection is an act of profound self-care. It's not just good for your soul, it's good for your body. The health risks of prolonged loneliness are comparable to smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day, and they increase the risk of heart disease, stroke, and dementia. If this story resonated with you, I want to invite you to share a piece of your own experience in the comments. You don't have to share details, maybe just a feeling. Sharing can be a powerful first step, and it helps create a community right here, so no one has to feel alone. Your story matters, and it might just be the one that someone else needs to hear today. And if you'd like more content on building meaningful connections and living a fuller life, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Remember, feeling lonely is a signal that you are built for connection. That need is hardwired into us. It doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. Your story isn't over. The journey out of this doesn't start with a giant leap. It starts with one small step. You are not alone in this feeling, and you have the power to change it. Start today.